In 2008, the TV series Torchwood had to present its difficult second album. Was it any good? Hello, welcome to Music and Stuff. I'm Rob Lewis and it's Who's Day Tuesday. So this week we are talking about Torchwood Series 2. As you're probably aware, Torchwood was a spin-off of the popular BBC TV series Doctor Who, and also an anagram of the same name. So we'd already had Series 1, which was brilliant. Can lightning strike twice? So let's go through it. Torchwood, obviously starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, with Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper, Naoko Mori as Toshiko Sato, Gareth David Lloyd as Yanto Jones, and Bern Gorman as Dr. Owen Harper Cooper. I got it wrong in the first one. Yes, as Owen. So, at the end of Series 1, Captain Jack went off with the Doctor in the TARDIS, and you see the events of that played out in Doctor Who Series 3, and then he's returned back to Cardiff at the end of that series, which is where we pick up sort of here. So there's a slight crossover, because at the start of episode 1, Jack has been missing, but he is returned in the episode, which is called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Great opener there. Bloody Torchwood with what was her name from Stella? Auntie. Oh, she played Stella's auntie in the TV series Stella. Anyway, I'm getting way off the point here. So you get Captain John Hart appears, who was a time agent along with Jack, and I think they were partners, and they obviously had some kind of romantic relationship. Turns out he's a bit of a wrong'un, and weird noises. We might get a cat on the roof in a second. But played by what's his face from Buffy. This is so professional, this. Let's get the cast up. It was Owen Harper. Oh, what's his face? Oh, he played Spike in Buffy. You're glad I do all this research. Well, I wasn't going to talk about this, to be fair. I'll tell you what, in the meantime, let's switch over to Matey. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you're enjoying it. If you are, maybe you could just help out a small channel by pressing the like button, sharing it to your friends, hit the subscribe button and the alarm notification bell so you can keep up to date with my new videos, and just generally just watching them. It all helps. I'm just a small creator, just trying to find my way in this YouTube metropolis. If you really want to help out as well, there's a link to my Patreon in the description and in my About section. So again, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Yep, what he said. James Masters was his name. James Masters, who played Captain John Hart. Yeah, bit of a wrong-un. But in Series 2, there's like an underlying theme where you find out a little bit more about Jack's past. A little bit. I mean, there's so much of it. But you find out that he was separated from his younger brother, Gray, when they were kids. And he didn't know what happened to him. But just at the end of the episode, Captain John Hart says that he's found Gray, and then he's gone, leaving Jack to wonder what on earth that was all about. Then you get to episode 2. Oh, Sorry, I didn't give that a ranking. So yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, an 8 out of 10 for that, my personal ranking. Worth noting as well that the Captain John Hart story was written by Chris Chibnall. Yeah, remember that name? You probably know who Chris Chibnall is anyway. The man could write. Whatever your feelings about him in Doctor Who, Chris Chibnall is a good writer. So yeah, 8 out of 10. Then we get to episode 2, Sleeper. Now I can't remember the characters' names very much. But yeah, so Sleeper, there's a burglary that goes wrong and it turns into pretty much just a murder, slaughter kind of thing. And they interview victim of the burglary, and turns out she's a sleeper cell. She's basically a very bad alien who is here to invade Earth at the right time. She's basically had her memory wiped, a new memory installed, so she doesn't know she's this alien, but she is, and she's a badass alien as well. Very good episode, 8 out of 10. Then we get to episode 3, written by Helen Rayner, which was To the Last Man. And some Torchwood lore. Since 1914, I think it is, sometime during the First World War, there was a soldier called Tommy Brockless who had like this weird kind of circular timey-wimey thing where he was approached by Torchwood whilst in hospital, the Torchwood of the time, to come with them, where he was sent forwards in time. No, that's wrong, he wasn't sent forwards in time. He was taken to Torchwood and cryogenically frozen and released every year for a day to check his functioning and everything. Doesn't know why. And then we get to 2008, which is when it all becomes clear, and he has to go back to sort of close the loop kind of thing. Bit timey-wimey. Him and Toshiko are lovers in this story, and it's really sad because you kind of feel for Tosh, because she's been pining over Owen all this time, and then she finally meets someone that she loves and loves her back, and she has to give it all up to save the universe. But a very, very good episode, top-notch episode. I'm going to give that 9 out of 10. Then we get to episode 4. It's worth noting, actually. No, I'll mention that later. Then we get to episode 4, which is Meet. This is when Gwen's partner, Reese, becomes a little bit more than just a side character. He plays a big part in this one, where a company that he is working for is involved in this meat scandal, and turns out that the bad guys have had this huge sort of like star whale that's come through the rift, ended up in this factory, and they're basically slicing it up for meat whilst it's still alive, and but it just keeps growing exponentially, giving them more meat. I particularly like Gwen's line in this one, where they're trying to get Reese to help the mission, and Gwen really doesn't want them to. She's worried about him getting hurt. She says, "What is this, fucking Scooby-Doo?" I just love that line. It's always stuck with me, that one. Meet, great episode. Good to see more of Reese. 8 out of 10 for that. Then we get to Adam, episode 5. This is a weird one because the episode starts kind of halfway through the story. So you get into the Torchwood hub, and there's this character that we've not seen before called Adam, but everybody else knows. But also people are different. Like Owen is this nerd rather than the confident lady killer. He's no, not lady killer. That's what's the term? Womanizer. Instead, he's this like nerdy computer guy who's pining over Tosh rather than the other way around. And you don't. It takes you a while until you work out what's going on. But Adam does this thing where he plants memories into other people's brains. Because Gwen arrives. Gwen hasn't seen him before, so Gwen is really surprised when she sees him there. But then he does it to her, and then of course she believes it, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, fine episode. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Then we get to the Owen Death trilogy. It's a catchy title, isn't it? Starting with episode 6 called Reset. And this has two cool things about it. First of all, Jim Robinson from Neighbours is in this. Alan Dale, that played Jim Robinson in Neighbours. He's in this episode as Dr. Copley, the bad guy. And he plays a bad guy well. I've seen him be a bad guy in some other bits and pieces as well. But he's a very good actor. But also sees the return of Martha Jones. Last seen in the Last of the Time Lords alongside Captain Jack and the end of Series 3 of Doctor Who. She's now working for UNIT, but she's been assigned to work with Torchwood on this case about the farm with a PH, not Big Pharma, and she goes on to assist, and Owen obviously fancies her. Some shit happens. Copley pulls out a gun, goes to shoot Martha, but Owen jumps in the way and gets shot and dies. The main character dies. And that's how episode 6 ends. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Then you get to episode 7, Dead Man Walking, where we return to the Torchwood hub. Martha is trying to get Owen back. Then they bring out the resurrection gauntlet, the risen mitten, to try and bring Owen back to life. But it kind of half works. So he effectively comes back to life, but his body's still dead. So he's just this walking corpse. I know, it's grim, isn't it? And so he's still a character, but he can't die. He can't heal if he gets injured, which is a great concept. I don't think I've ever seen that in anything before. It's a really interesting concept. Again, every time I do one of these videos, these lights make me yawn. But there you go. Dead Man Walking, going to give that an 8. Some other stuff happens involving like the Grim Reaper and shit. But yeah, I'm going to give that one an 8 out of 10. Then you get to the third part of the trilogy called A Day in the Death. And Owen finds himself at the top of a roof of a building where a young girl wants to kill herself because her boyfriend died. And Owen basically tells her a story of what happened to him and what death is actually like, which kind of puts her off. And also Richard Bryars is in this episode, so which gives that an 8 out of 10 as well. Now we get to episode 9. It's now established that Owen is still a character, but is dead. He's just this like walking, not zombie, because he's still aware of what's going on. Episode 9, Something Borrowed. Now this could have been shit, but it isn't. It's so good. It's Gwen and Reese's wedding day. Gwen wakes up and she's 40 weeks pregnant. And she wasn't when she went to bed. Turns out she's been infected by this alien. But it's her wedding day. They've still got to go through the wedding. It's almost like a comedy farce sitcom type thing. But it really works. It handles the tone so well. Neris Hughes is in it as Reese's mum. It's just a very, very funny episode, but a very action-packed episode as well. Yeah, Something Borrowed. I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. And we get episode 10 from Out of the Rain, starring Julian Bleach as the Rainmaker, who played Davros. Or you'll see later on that he played Davros. Julian Bleach, what great character actor he is. Starts off, there's this old cinema, and they've found these old tapes, old reel-to-reel things, not really tapes, and they're watching them, and Jack is in one of them. Like old circus footage, like before the turn of the century, or around the same time as the turn of the century. But playing the tape actually makes some of the people in it come to life, including this Rainmaker, or he kind of lives in the water. Always reminded me a little bit of that episode of Round the Twist, the water sprite. This is much darker. I can't remember a lot of the ins and outs because I watched these a little while ago, but the plot somewhat escapes me at the moment. But it was very good. 8 out of 10 for that. Episode 11, Adrift. This is another Chris Chibnall episode. And Ruth Jones, her son, disappears whilst walking home one night as was he 14 or 15 or something? Maybe he's a little bit older. He's a teenager. Disappears on his way home. But what actually happened, that you find out later, was he was sent back in time through the rift. But it kind of messed him up. And there's now this island full of people that have had that happen to them. So he's still alive, but he's very much a broken man because he went back in time and then he's aged. So he's about the same age as his mum. But he does this thing where he screams for hours. Just this scream because of what happened to him. Very, very moving episode. A very sad episode. Some Gwen and Jack conflict. Yeah, it's a good episode. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Then we got the sort of two-parter season finale, again written by Chris Chibnall, starting off with episode 12 called Fragments. And this, not a lot happens in the current narrative in this story, but it's a story made up of the main characters' pasts. You see their origins. So you see Jack when he first arrived back on Earth after the events of Doctor Who Series 1. And this is when you find out, or when Jack finds out that he can't die. He's resurrected. And then we go through different time periods because he doesn't die. So you see Jack working in like the early 1900s for Torchwood and through to the present day. You've also got Yanto, who wanted a job at Torchwood. Of course, we find out earlier that his girlfriend Lisa was in the process of being a Cyberman. But it's him trying to track down Jack and to get a job at Torchwood. It's good. You've got Toshiko, ends up being arrested for, what is it she does now? She steals something vitally secret, and she's arrested. And then Jack gets her out, and then you get Owen's story, which is tragic, where his wife has early onset dementia, like the youngest case ever known. Turns out she's actually got an alien living in her head, which is making her lose her memory. That's kind of what turns Owen into the arsehole that he later becomes. This is all kind of brought in because the whole crew go to this old building. They split up and there's explosion. So there's 4 bombs that explode. So apart from Gwen and Reese, they're all trapped under rubble. Gwen and Reese rescue them, and that's when you see these flashbacks. Well, not really flashbacks, but you know what I mean. You see like the history of them. And then at the end of the episode, you see Captain John Hart reappear, saying, you know, he did it. And that's where the episode ends. And you get to episode, and Fragments, I'm going to give a 10 out of 10. Superb episode. Then you get to episode 13, Exit Wounds, again written by Chris Chibnall. This is the follow-up, where you actually see what happens, and Captain John Hart is there, and Jack's younger brother Gray has returned, and he's not happy. He's not happy with his older brother, and he imprisons him in Cardiff for 2,000 years underground. That's harsh. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10, this episode, and it's the main reason isn't so much for the story, it's for a certain scene where Owen is going to sacrifice himself. Only he can save the day, but he knows that'll be the end of him. Tosh has been injured fatally, but the audience knows they're both going to die, and the last thing they had was a phone conversation together, the two of them, and it's heartbreaking watching that scene between them both on the phone, because there's this unrequited love. It really is heartbreaking. It was so well written, and then of course they both die. So for that scene alone is why I've scored it a 10 out of 10. Beautiful scene, and the loss of 2 major characters in one go. So Torchwood Series 2, it's got an overall score of 8.5 out of 10. There wasn't an episode that scored lower than 8 out of 10. So for me, Series 2, much better than Series 1. They had a clearer idea of what story they were telling with Series 2, which is great, yeah. And you wait till Series 3. But yes, overall, fantastic series, 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Catch you later, Bill and Ted. What it is I need is like a 20-second clip that I can put at the end of each video. You know how other YouTubers do it, whether I have at the end of a video like 4 things on the screen, it's, you know, like and subscribe, that kind of stuff. I just need something like that, but I don't know what to put.